Welcome to the Family Office. Planning for the people who matter most.
Holy, you know what balls? Like, yeah. I can't even.
Where do we start, man?
Because I don't even know where to start right now.
Right. We meet on Thursdays and we get together for our conversation on a weekly basis. And then the following day, it's just bombs, like literally and figuratively. And now you've got this whole situation that's going on in Venezuela. And what's so interesting is we did a rapid fire toward the end of the year, remember?
Yes.
And I said, hey, do you think there's going to be a war? And you said, no, I don't think there's going to be a war.
I
do think there's going to be a conflict. Man, this was like option C, D, or E, right? So, all right. So, I wanted to call you, man, but I really wanted to capture this organically on air just to see. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about a situation where potentially there could be war. It's not a laughing matter, but I'm very, very interested to hear your perspective because, I think there's good arguments on both sides, but what's your perspective on the whole thing in Venezuela with Maduro?
Okay. So I don't want to, I think probably today, because we have a few other things we're going to talk about today. And I think we're going to probably have to, we'll see how it goes with time. But I definitely wanted to dive, because I think the biggest things happening right now are obviously, and we're going to talk about Minnesota today. We're going to talk about Minnesota, Tim Walz. I mean, even today there's breaking news with Tim Walz. And I want to get into that as well, as I'm sure you saw. And then Nick Shirley and everything that's going on there. And that might not allow us time to get into maybe, the subsidies,
some of the other topics
and something, because now adding on to what happened over the weekend on the 2nd, right? It happened on Saturday, right? No, did it happen on the 3rd? It happened on the 3rd, right? Saturday. Yeah, it was on Saturday. Happening over there, obviously with Venezuela and everything. I think it's just right for us to kind of get into all that. So I thought there was going to be a conflict with Venezuela. I didn't ever think there was going to be a war, so I'm not surprised. But I am so shocked right now, and I think the rest of the world is shocked because, and I'm going to talk about what this is. Now, before I talk about everything, do I think this is a good thing? Unequivocally, 100% yes. This is 100% the right thing. 100% this needed to be done. The guy didn't win the last election. We knew he stole the last election. I think it's comical how massive players and major U.S. representatives on the Democratic side are responding, specifically Chuck Schumer and a few other guys that I can't remember the name. I think it's absolutely hysterical how they're responding, especially given 2 or 3 years ago, when Maduro did not step down and clearly lost that election in 2024. I think it's just hilarious because they're completely bitter, completely pissed, and completely mad. And here's what I'll say about it. I don't think this could have happened any other way to prevent it from being a war or prevent it from being a conflict. And whether or not that goes that route down the line is here to be determined. But so far, I know we're only the 3rd or 2nd day in after this happened. Maybe we're less than 72 hours away ago from this happening. So far, so good.
Okay.
Nobody was killed. No civilians were killed. It was a clean extraction. I mean, if that's what you want to call it. But I mean, by and large, the guy had many chances. I think there was a lot of going on between him, and I think he had a chance to end it and walk away from it and go wherever he wanted. And obviously now Trump went in there and swooped him up. I'm amazed that the U.S. has, or anybody by that man, not take the U.S. off the table. I'm just amazed that any country, now given it's Venezuela, but still, this is crazy. The fact that any country possesses the technical, military, and logistical prowess to do that type of operation is just absolutely mind-boggling. To me, it's just crazy. I think this represents one of the most massive keys to a puzzle that I didn't even see coming. But I think this represents something that's going to bring a lot of stability and a lot of peace. I know there's people that have an issue with it, with the way it was done, but I don't think there's any other way that it could have been done without killing people or having a war or having catastrophe. And I think that I think that from a geopolitical standpoint, it sends the very strong message to China, Russia, Iran, and all these other people that, bro, stop now and sit down and play and pay attention and cooperate. I just think that's it. I just don't know any other way. I'm shocked by it. Now, as an American waking up to this, I think it's a good thing.
Interesting. I had a feeling you would see it that way. Very interesting.
I don't see any problem with it because of the way it was done.
I completely disagree with you. I completely disagree with you.
Okay, let's go.
So here's the issue. So, okay, let me pre-frame what I'm going to say with this very important point. That if I were a citizen of Venezuela under the dictatorship of Maduro, and I elected Edmundo Gonzalez to be the president, and it's widely known that he is the de facto president, even though he's not serving. He was the one elected. I would be very happy that Maduro was gone. Okay, so let's take a pause and push that to the side. The fact that the United States has the audacity to go to a sovereign country and extract the leader there, especially considering the fact that they said, we are America first. We don't want any wars. We don't want we don't want to be dealing with the affairs of other places. And for this to happen, because here's the problem. We made the mistake before the Trump administration, or in between both administrations, actually before both of them, of dealing with Iraq and going in there. And when we took Saddam Hussein out, the people were dancing in the streets. They were excited because they believed that the regime change would completely change the trajectory of their economy, of their political process, of democracy, and all of that. And none of it happened. And it so turned out to be one of the worst and most expensive fiascos in the history of wars. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is let's deal with this whole issue of a country's sovereignty. Let's say, for example, President Xi did exactly the same thing. He was, a dictator, evil dictator, and pushed opioids and different types of drugs into the United States and all of that. There's no way the United States would go in there because the power and the military might they have would prevent him from doing that. So the United States is essentially acting like a bully from a smaller country that's not even population wise the size of California, and they go and bully them. I don't like it because it sets a bad precedent. Because here's the thing. The ends doesn't justify the means. What do I mean by that? The ends is that Maduro should not be in office. Okay. But the way in which one goes in to extract him, he was kidnapped from his own country, which is a sovereign nation. And we don't have the right to go and do that. Now, there's a part of me that wonders, okay, they took his wife also. Was there this art of the deal going on behind back doors and all of these things? Because, you have all of these cartel leaders that would have taken him out if he would have opened the door to the country. So maybe Maduro say, you know what, Trump? I'm going to put on a strong man's perspective, and I'm going to just open the door when you guys come and, allow you to take me out. Now, obviously that is a theory not based in fact. I don't even know if I believe that's true. I'm just conjecturing here. But let me end up with this point, because I certainly want to talk about oil. I want to talk about strategy. I want to talk about war, all of these other economic policies and things like that. But I want to end with this point, which is at the end of the day, regardless of my belief about Maduro's legitimacy as a president, or my belief as the quality of leadership that he provided, or how he ran the country down, he was a bad person and a bad leader, and he's not good for the country. All of that being said, that still does not give us the right to go in and extract him, because there were other motivations behind it. And who's to stop now Putin from continuing his crusade in Ukraine? And who's to stop President Xi from going into Taiwan and saying, hey, you guys did it. Now, obviously, with the United States and the United Nations and the possibility for nuclear war and all of that, because, when you attack one UN country, you essentially attack all of them. So I understand there are different consequences, but you've got to be very careful, because we're on a very, very slippery slope towards World War III, my opinion.
So first and foremost, I thought about that. Because I'm not about wars. I can't stand it. And let's be honest here. Let's look at the receipts. There's a lot of wars under democratic presidents, right? Obama was at war. Yep. Bush was at war. Clinton was at war. Biden, all these guys, they love that stuff. Sure. They love it. Let's just be clear on that one. Trump, no wars, nothing. But
a lot of conflicts and a lot of skirmishes
okay, cool. But
I understand. I'm not trying to take sides here. All I'm just saying, let's keep the same energy on both sides.
Of course. I think, though, and now Trump's going to make moves like this, obviously. It's a second term, and get over it. He has a mandate. He won. He has every right to do what he's doing, meaning not right to do it, but he has every moral authority, I guess, however the wording should be, to do this because of the way he was elected. He wasn't elected on a shoestring. He was elected on a supermajority in all causes. And we know that. We could go down that. Just lest people forget. He won all the swing states. He won all the battle states. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College.
He gave a different message. And he talked about the fact that it was America first. He's going against his entire base. But so keep going.
So let's take a look at this real quick. In regards to, the U.S. going down and doing what it did, a couple things. I want to talk about the regime change kind of issue. And then obviously I want to talk about, U.S. doing it. I like the fact that the U.S. just did do it as an act of war or any of that kind of situation. I like how the U.S. did it in regards to charging him as a criminal, because he is. And that's what they did. They perp walked him. They brought him in and charged him in the state of New York as a criminal for the criminal things he did against the United States. Now, the reason why they can do that is because he is not a duly elected president of any state, of any country. So to afford him the rights to say, well, that's wrong. You shouldn't have done that. That's a sovereign nation. You're right. It is a sovereign nation. But he's not recognized as a sovereign ruler of that nation. He's recognized as a citizen, maybe, of that nation, right? But he is not recognized as an authoritative power. He's recognized as a narcotic or narco drug lord dictatorship who stole the ability to hold governance over that sovereign nation, that which is Venezuela, right? So we have every right to go pursue him as an international criminal. I mean, Biden set the precedents. He put a bounty, him and the Kamala in the end of their term, put a $25 million bounty on him. Said, hey, 25 million US to whoever brings this guy to us. Cool. See, the problem I have with that is, yeah, we should go get him. But the problem I have with that is that, again, everyone over there doesn't have a spine to go do the work. Classic Democrat. We want to complain about everything, but we don't want to ever offer solutions or actually go like this and roll up our sleeves and do the work. That's why we hate Trump, because Trump said, all right, cool, I'm going to come here, I'm going to do this. You guys said 25 million, presidential act said $25 million reward on this guy, which the previous administration did not recognize him as the sovereign leader, and 48 other countries didn't recognize him as the sovereign leader. So therefore, yeah, we do have every right to go in there and swoop him up, because he's the one who also stole hundreds of millions of dollars, or whatever the number is, from Chevron that we invested there. Chevron has contracts with Venezuela to build infrastructure and maintain infrastructure, because Chevron's the only people that want to refine their heavy tar or heavy oil, whatever, crude, right? You know what Maduro and Hugo Chavez did and have been doing? They stole all of those assets and said, screw your contract, and redistributed those assets to God knows who's. They said they did it to the Venezuelans, but ask every
China
Venezuelan.
And Iran, yeah,
to sure. Whoever it was, right? So of course they committed a criminal act in the United States. Biden says, oh, talk like the most of his cohorts do, just hot air while they get rich, right? And then Trump comes in and says, bet. And by the way, Trump was scolded by Schumer and all these other guys. Why don't you get Maduro out of office? He was scolded for not doing anything about getting Maduro out in his first term. Guy comes in and executes the most flawless, Mortal Kombat, flawless victory, fatality. Right. That's exactly what happened on Saturday.
Okay.
Everyone woke up and said that. Now, in regards to, and I'll wrap it up and throw back over to you, Len, because I thought long and hard about this because I went, regime change doesn't work. It never works. It never works unless you go back to the days of British imperialism where you just destroy the indigenous people, because that's how you create an imperialistic environment. Which is kind of what's happening right now with all the Muslims coming to all these countries, especially Germany. It's happening mad in Germany. But here's why it's different and why you can't, and why I don't think you're going to have the outcome that you had in Afghanistan and Iraq and all those other areas. Number one, it's true. We had assets there. We had investments there. And Nicolás Maduro screwed over Chevron. That's a fact. We didn't have any of that going on legitimately over in Iraq. And number two, Iraq's not even in our hemisphere. We have no business being over there anyways. Those guys have been killing each other and blowing each other up since the beginning of time. We should have left that crap alone. I understand militarily wise, maybe vendetta wise, whatever we did, 9/11, whatever the excuse was. I think it was total horse shit. We should have never been there. Dick Cheney should have stayed out of it. Whatever it is, God rest his soul. The difference between Iraq and Venezuela is Venezuela already is electing democratically. They want to be. They used to be. They used to be a preeminent democratic country before a socialist named Hugo Chavez came in and turned the country into socialism on the premise that he got lucky and he nationalized the oil business when oil spiked. As he got out, oil tanked, Maduro took over, the country's a shit tart, is in shits. And they're both dictators and socialism doesn't work. 8,000 people migrated because of this government to the US. That's a massive problem for us. So we installed a temporary president that was elected, whether she was elected or not, I have to do more research on that. But we put their own in there to lead the country. Hey, we're going to help you. We're leading it. We're running the country, but lead it. We want to bring back the democratically elected leaders and probably hold free democratic elections and let the Venezuelan people govern themselves and help them in the sense of keeping narco dictators out of there. That's what the U.S. is doing. I don't think that we're going to get involved in regime change. I think all we did was help the Venezuelan people get unoccupied by a terrorist that was there that stole their sovereignty. So I don't look at it as the United States went in and invaded a sovereign country and violated their sovereignty. I don't look at it at all because their leader that they took out of there, the guy that they took out, Maduro, he wasn't their sovereign leader anyways. So he wasn't. He doesn't get those. He does not afford those privileges. So to me, the U.S. unkidnapped Venezuela and said, all right, cool. We took out the main guy. The other guys are there, like the defense minister and all that stuff. He wasn't elected. How can he be? He's not sovereign. He wasn't elected. He is an unrecognized dictator that was not sovereignly elected by the sovereign people of Venezuela, who's constantly robbing the resources of them. So if anyways, I'm Venezuelan, I'm happy. If I'm American, I'm happy. I think this creates a bilateral trade opportunity. This also allows America to invest in Venezuela, and it allows us to put a middle finger to all the other countries that want to say, oh, we don't want to cooperate with America. Well, guess what? America's back, baby. And we're going to go find the partners in the countries that want to work with us. And historically speaking, anytime a country works with us like that, on good terms, they do better. Panama's doing well. There's no issues with Panama. Right. We built the Panama Canal. So I'll throw it back over to you, Len, but I don't think those issues will. Now, if they do, I will wear the T-shirt that says "Bring back Maduro," like all these retards that are protesting in the streets everywhere.
I'm not here. I'm not here to argue for Maduro. I'm not, because that's why I said that.
But a lot of politicians seem to be arguing for him, and that's weird to me.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think the issue is this. If you Google who is Venezuela's president, it will say Nicolás Maduro. Now, does that mean that he's recognized as the president? No. Does that mean that that's the person the people want as the president? No. But the fact is that for the United States to go and take the person who is positioned on a sovereign nation's, in their presidential palace, wherever that guy lives, he's the person that's recognized as the person. Okay, so we've established that. Now let's talk about the other issue that I have. Hold on, Chris.
Before you do that, one example, Len. Okay. But I don't want to lose track of the sovereignty thing.
Make it quick.
I'm going to make it quick. If I'm a terrorist, let's pretend for a second that I am from Austin Powers, the movie, and $1 million, whatever his name was, right? I'm that guy, okay? And I go over and I take over Somalia. And I install myself as the de facto dictator leader in Somalia. That's okay? And then Google says, well, Chris Philp is the president of Somalia. He wasn't elected. He stole an election. Everyone recognizes it, but we're going to say he is just because he had the money and the power.
Why is it the United States business, though? Why is it the United States business? It's not our business. It's not.
Number one, because we're getting all their migrants, which is affecting us. Number two, it's in our hemisphere. Number three,
8,000 people. I mean, if they go through the whole immigration process, we get migrants from all over the world. The United States has long been known as the place of immigrants and migration because of the opportunity here. If the opportunity was better in Russia, the Venezuelan folks would have gone there. So I understand where you're going with that argument.
It's easier to go up a landmass than to go over a landmass. And let's be honest, no one wants to go to Russia because it's a communist country too.
Okay, but if Mexico had the economy that the United States had, they would certainly go to Mexico because then you don't have to worry about a language barrier and all of that. That's the point.
But they don't. Because this narco dictator ran as well.
Okay, so here's the current
Mexican president is corrupt too.
So Chris, then why wouldn't the United States go in after the Mexican government as well? Because there's narco dictators that take over in many countries. Let me finish, brother, because your point, you're taking talking points from Fox and Newsmax and all that stuff.
Come on, Len. I don't even watch them.
Let me tell you, this is the problem. This is the problem is that, again, I'm not recognizing Maduro as a legitimate leader and as a legitimate president. The issue that I have is that it's not our business. It's not our business. If I was your neighbor and I was beating on my wife and all of these things, it's not your responsibility to come in and strong man me and move me out of my own house. You call the police for that. And so I think that a different response should have been, okay, let's take a look as the United Nations. I'm getting ready to tell you a solution. So let's say the United Nations gets together and says, look, this is a regime that was democratically elected Edmundo Gonzalez. And as United Nations, we come together and we facilitate a fair election process to make sure the right person is in office. You can't just unilaterally break into somebody's country and take the person that's placed there. Yeah, well, but he's the person that if everybody
that wasn't elected,
he was elected, but he was elected improperly. I'll give you all of that, but it's still, Chris, it still does not give you the right to go and impose your will on somebody else. Because look, what is President Xi a democratic leader? Answer my question.
No.
Is he responsible for the deaths of thousands of people potentially because of fentanyl? Yes. Why doesn't the United States go into China and take him then and bring him to justice?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Mexico's president was elected by the Mexican people in an open, honest election. So far from what we know. Okay, let's say we do get together and get with the UN or whoever, which is useless. As we all know, they're useless. I mean, they don't do anything. They're useless. The budget confirms if we're just strictly looking at budgeting, they're useless. You got to agree with me on that. They don't pay
I will give you the purpose of their existence is great, but the execution of their existence right now is terrible. I'll give you that.
Okay, good. But let's say they did that. Okay.
You're talking about the UN getting together to make sure they have a democratic okay, got it.
Number one, what's the solution? And then number two, what makes us think they haven't been doing this already? Because they've been trying to get this guy out of office since he's been in office, and they've been trying to get this guy to turn over the election since he stole it in 2024. So if they do get together, number one, what's the solution? And if they did, number two, they probably already did this. They're never getting anything done. I mean, again, here's the reason why none of them will ever get anything done. And it's proven. It's exactly why Ukraine and Russia are still at war. They're spineless. And the reason why Ukraine and Russia are still at war is because Zelensky is crying and he doesn't want to give up the power. Because Zelensky knows once war is over, he's done for. The guy's done for. So I don't want to get onto Ukraine because that's a totally different thing. But yeah, exactly. We can't go to war with Russia. We can't uninstall Russia, even though a lot of people in the world would want to uninstall him because let's face it, he is what he is. And he's really not even that bad. But the reality is we can't uninstall him because if we
I'm talking about President Xi. I think Xi is much more of an external threat than Putin.
I think Xi, big time, 100%. Look, we all know China steals.
Go take him.
We know that.
Give him the perp walk. Exactly.
We can't. There's no way we can. You know why? Exactly. But here's the reason why. He is officially elected by the Chinese people. The Chinese people officially have elected him. They ran, however they do that there. They have done that. They are okay with him being president. They're okay with that. Maduro, Venezuela does not want him to be president. By and large, still, when you look at China's the second largest economy in the world. So when you look at, it's impossible to say that because in the context, because most people would say, yeah, but even though China is what it is, China is still a net positive and a net contributor to the world, economically, socially, culturally, all of those.
I agree with all of that.
So to uninstall him from president is irresponsible and is act of war. To uninstall a unlegitimate, unelected narco dictator from a country that is dying and is falling apart and is losing immigrants, that's a different context. And I think if given the chance, China or Russia would probably have done the same thing, either in that way or in a different way within the next 3 to 5 years. Because all those guys, they're frothing at the mouth.
That's not their MO. That's not how
all these guys in Europe and all these guys in all the other continents besides North America and South America have salivated for years, for centuries they've salivated over the problem that they have, which is America is ocean locked away from them. And they hate it and they can't stand it. So to infiltrate South America, because Mexico is a garbage dump and all the other countries underneath it are a garbage dump economically, and they know that, in order for China and Russia and all these guys to gain prowess and to take America and to take away America's biggest advantage, which is ocean locked away from these people that can't get peace in their head straight, they've got to do it any way possible. So how do they do it? Oh, we got a friend over here, Nicolás Maduro. China's friends with him. Russia's friend with him. Iran's friend with him. All of our adversaries that don't agree with our way of life, spiritually, financially, economically, culturally, they all love this guy. And they're all friends with this guy. So of course, they're finding a way. Let Maduro do whatever he's going to do. They let this guy sabotage himself because they know eventually when the country collapses or he gets killed by somebody else or gets poisoned by somebody else, they're going to come in and go, and take that and go, nice. Now we've got a way to get to America by land. You don't think that's a 50-year to 100-year plan? Or a 20-year plan?
I think that it would be a smart and prudent thing to do from their perspective, no doubt, because Venezuela is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the United States. When you look at
ocean-wise
of South America,
Cuba.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Now, but here's the other issue, though, and we touched on this. I want to dive a little bit deeper into this. In which situation has the United States ever gone to a country and forced regime change, and it turned out well? Please enlighten me.
I can't say that has happened successfully anywhere, but what I can say is that this is different from regime change. This is not regime change.
How so? This is exactly regime change.
Because
this is
what
exactly
we've done,
what it is.
No, because here's the thing. When we go into Venezuela, we didn't go in there and say, all right, cool, and put boots on the ground. We just simply got rid of a guy that was not there legally. We took him out. And then immediately when he was out, I don't remember that lady's name. But
are you talking about Delcy Rodriguez?
Is she's the temporary president?
She's the vice president right now who condemned the actions of the United States.
All right, so she's in charge right now. Correct. I think what's going to happen ultimately as this progresses, that already is a good sign to me. Because we just as easily could have sent a U.S. envoy there with diplomats and gone, okay, here's the de facto government. And we didn't do that. Because you saw a lot of that in Iraq, right?
Okay.
We have diplomats there and all that crap there was happening. We haven't done that. What instead we've done is we put one of our own in there, and we're probably working out a way to make it safe to bring back the democratically elected leader who's in Denmark or something like that, Netherlands, something like that. Right?
Okay.
Bring her back because remember, Len, we still got to get rid of the Secretary of Defense or whoever, those 3 or 4 other guys, 4 other people there
who are loyal to Maduro. Okay.
Right.
So it's
not safe. You know?
Yeah. So you and I will agree to disagree on the extraction, kidnapping, liberation, however, whatever camp you fall in, you'll call it something different. Okay, so we're going to.
I think it's a liberation of Venezuela.
Okay, and I say it's the kidnapping of a person from a sovereign nation, but we'll table that for now. Okay, so now let's talk about next.
I think it's an arrest of a criminal from a sovereign nation.
You can call it whatever you want. I believe. I believe. Okay, but here's the thing. I want to turn the conversation just a little bit because I think there are some places strategically that probably you and I can align with in terms of next steps. So let's talk about a couple of different people and what are some possibilities that would make the most sense and see where we come and either agree or disagree on those. Okay, so you've got Delcy Rodriguez, who is second in charge. Now, she was around during the time that Hugo Chavez was around and when Machado was in office. So obviously she's the person there right now. And so that's the person that you said is a good idea for her to be in office. I disagree. I'll tell you why. Now
I don't necessarily think she should be in office. I think that they should either bring back the gal that was elected.
Okay, but it was a guy. His name is is Edmundo Gonzalez.
I thought a lady won.
Okay, so who you're talking about is Maria Corina Machado.
She won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes, and she's a person that she united the opposition. And the people elected Edmundo Gonzalez in December 2024. So
then what we ought to do is bring all these guys back in and hold an election again.
Yes, I agree with that.
That's what needs to happen. Now, if Trump doesn't do that, then I'm going to be in your camp fully, Len. I'm going to go, this is bullshit. This is freaking regime change. Get this shit out of here because we don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Okay, so we agree on that. Now, okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say that Venezuela was Chad in Africa or Uganda in Africa, okay? And everything was exactly the same. Drugs, the undemocratically elected quote unquote leader, everything was exactly the same. But in this case, Uganda or Chad on the continent of Africa didn't have any oil reserves. It was just wasteland and, desert and all that, which is not the case, by the way, with those two countries. But I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, if the United States has no interest in what's going on there with regard to what's under the ground with the rare earth minerals and the crude oil and all of that, do you think that the United States would have invaded Venezuela if all of those circumstances weren't there?
Okay, this is interesting, and I like this. I like where you're going with this. Okay, let me frame it this way, and maybe I'm on the same path as you.
Okay.
If this was happening in, let's say, Chad, and there's no resources there, none of that stuff, And
correct.
And geographically speaking, Chad is where Chad is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Chad's in a totally different hemisphere.
It's in Africa.
Okay, perfect. Then no, we wouldn't have gone there, and we shouldn't have gone there. And here's the reason why.
Okay.
Here's the reason why.
Shouldn't. Interesting. Okay.
Wouldn't and
very
shouldn't.
Interesting.
We should make the decision to go there and help if we are asked by the leading countries in that hemisphere to say, hey, America, bro, I need some help with Chad. Can you come help us? Sure, we'll come help you. Much like we did forcibly in World War II. Much like we did in World War I when everyone came and said, hey, US, we got this problem with Germany. Can you come and help us? Sure. US, we got this problem with Germany again. Will you come help us? No. We helped you before. We don't want to do it again. Stay out of it. Then all of a sudden, Japan and them get cozy. Rest is history. US comes in and has to show everybody again, pow, 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 right? And then finally, US goes, we're going to take a stand here, and we're obviously going to have to be daddy for you guys, because fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, it's war. And US at that point said, we don't want World War III. So we got to be daddy, because you guys can't be daddy. And we've had to be stuck in that daddy position. Now, with Venezuela, if there wasn't any oil there, yes, we needed to go there. Yes, we would have eventually gone there. Would we have gone there as fast? No. And why we need to is because it is a security threat, and it is a threat to our way of life as Americans. Because again, China wants to go there, and all these other guys want land access to America. Okay? Ending that. It's unfair to use that, though, if it is going to be used as a negative point against America, and here's why. To go, oh, you're just interested in Venezuela's oil. No, that's one of the main reasons why we go there. You can't blame America, because America has at its heart a capitalistic heart. So of course America's going to work at it as business. America is business. America is business. Business first. So Christianity first. At least that's the way it should be.
No, business first, but
yeah, business first.
Ahead.
So of course America's going to go, business opportunity, and we can show some power, and we can protect our butts against future threat. We're all in, baby. Let's go. Now, where America will do it wrong or do it right, and that's to be determined here, is whether or not we come in here and Trump has a chance to shine here. And this, I think, is, again, another opportunity for Trump to end his presidency with a resounding, overwhelming success. Because mark my words, I think this is where it's going to go. It's going to end well. Venezuela is going to become a power again, and it's Latin America. It's going to be a textbook for how South American countries should run and use their natural resources responsibly. And yeah, Trump is going to get a resounding success out of it, and because you're going to build a very strong partnership, and people are going to look at this and go, wow, this really worked. Now, if we allow them to be free, independent, sovereign, governing, democratic, republic nation, which Venezuela really, really, really wants, there's a lot of good stuff there. But it's a long, long, long process. And again, what makes it nice here is that Venezuela was already used to making oil. They just aren't doing it because socialism, communism doesn't work because the government's inefficient. Mm-hmm. What's nice about it is that we won't have to pay for this. We won't have to pay for any of this stuff. And it's not a tribal country like Iraq and Iran and Syria and Afghanistan and all those tribes. I mean,
they had a really good way of life. They did. And
they did. So that's where I'm at, kind of where that.
Okay. Yeah. And Venezuela was considered one of the crown jewels of South America when you look at the per capita income and the quality of life, and oil was like the equivalent of 5 cents per gallon. I mean, people lived well, and then you had, hyperinflation come and ravage everything. So I get that. So my issue is that I agree with you with regard to Venezuela's positioning and China and Russia wanting to have access to the United States. I'm with you 100% on that. I agree that Venezuela is a very important strategic position for the United States to have positive working relationships as well as the United States allies. So I agree with that perspective 100%. The issue that I have is and has always been is that the United States does not do anything for the good of or just because it's the right and moral and ethical thing to do. They only move when it's in their own best interest and they get something out of it. So all of the moves are always transactional. But the flip side of it is they try to make it seem as though they're moving for benevolent reasons. So I will give you this. The thing that I respect about Trump in this regard is that he says it out loud. Most presidents or most people in office don't say what they're really doing out loud. Going into Iraq was never about nuclear weapons. It was always about oil. And it was always about also installing bases in that area, because now you've got quick access to the Middle East. You've got quick access to Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and all of those oil rich nations right there. And so the United States having military bases all installed throughout that region is a strategic advantage, because now the United States can literally be anywhere in the world within hours because they have all of these strategic positions. So protecting Venezuela from that position as it relates to China and as it relates to Russia is of supreme importance. But don't go and take that type of action to remove their leader and to remove the person. Now, again, I'll come back to this last point, which is fine. I think that hopefully that if they work on getting Edmundo Gonzalez in or redoing an election, if there was some type of question about the legitimacy of his presidency, then redo the election. If it's pretty much widely spread. So I think there needs to be some type of diplomatic action now moving forward to say, look, people, there's goodwill right now. I would really want to hear what the Venezuelan people who are still within Venezuela's borders believe, because what we're hearing in all of the news cycles are the perspectives of people who've left Venezuela. So let me explain what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we may have a skewed perspective because let's just say, for example, somebody came and let's say President Trump was in California and somebody from China, they came in and took President Trump out and took him and extradited him to China. I'm sure people that are expats and also people that are in places like California and New York would be elated that he was gone. But if that was the only thing that went across the news wires in those countries where he was taken, then people would think all around the world that the United States was okay with taking President Trump. So I really, really am looking forward to hearing a wide range of perspectives, because you know there have been demonstrations against the United States in Venezuela for what happened. Now, any news station can find any story to substantiate their angle on things. So I'm not trying to give overwhelming legitimacy to that. But what I am saying is that there needs to be some diplomacy taking place between the United States and Venezuela to properly facilitate a fair election and where there's some type of oversight, but there needs to be more international oversight where it's the United States and other places in which Venezuela believes to be fair and impartial to come in and oversee that election. They get the new democratically elected official in office, and the United States says, okay, look, we want to reconnect the deals that we had with Chevron, Valero, Exxon, so on and so forth. Let's facilitate the contracts there and let the oil companies then do whatever business they're going to do, because the United States as a government needs to be as far away from this whole situation as quickly as possible.
I agree. I don't think we need to govern the country.
Heck,
imagine this for a second, Len, because you brought up the point of when is the United States. I know this isn't necessarily a regime change, but think about this for a second and see if this grows legs anywhere. Like, imagine if for a second the United States employed and laid down the same or similar types of policies in Venezuela right now that it did with Japan post World War II. Okay. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Because we virtually went into Japan and completely rebuilt IP, technology, money, infrastructure, and look at the way Japan and in America are today. Right?
Sure.
Look at what opportunity Japan had in the 80s when Japan was buying massive amounts of real estate in America. All the things that happened. Look at how solid Japan and the United States are. Look at how powerful of a country Japan emerged post World War II as a result of America going in and saying, oh, okay, cool. You bombed us. You preemptive striked us. You got us involved in World War II. You cost us a lot of American lives. You cost us a lot of time and stress. We didn't want to be involved. But you know what? We retaliated and we used nuclear weapons on you and did all kinds of stuff. And by the way, fascinating why they chose, if you ever get a chance, fascinating why they chose the targets and why they did them that way. Right? It's fascinating. I mean, I know it's a crazy subject to talk about, but
yeah, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are forever changed. But yeah,
forever changed, right? But there's a lot of people that don't agree with us doing it. But when you look at the argument for why we did it and why it was essential. It leans more that way when you look at all the geopolitical things. Because eventually Hitler was going to get a bomb and Hitler was going to drop a nuclear bomb. I mean, eventually it was going to happen.
Supposedly, we'll never know, but
we'll never know. But err on but hindsight is 2020. But err on the side of caution. But imagine for a second if America did that with Venezuela right now. Because what I would imagine is America goes in there and does that same type of playbook in Venezuela, and all of a sudden, think about this for a second. And this is just one piece because I talk about manufacturing a lot. What if America showed Venezuela how to manufacture the way China does, but did it double the price? And it's still 4 times cheaper to do it in Venezuela than it is America, but way better in China. We don't have to rely on China anymore. And all of a sudden, Venezuela can now diversify their economy away from just energy production, which is crude oil. Imagine what that looks like for a Venezuelan country when America goes in there and shows them how to build, how to manufacture, how to R&D, how to develop, how to do all of these things. Just like we did in Japan, post World War II. Imagine when that happens. Imagine what that looks like, what the world looks like that at that point. That's exactly what I think needs to happen, and I see that happening because of what Trump is.
That would never happen. Let me tell you why.
It would never happen because
here's the reason why. The context is.
But wouldn't it be a good thing?
Oh. Yeah, and so would, every person on the planet getting $1 million a month. That'd be a great thing too. But let me tell you.
But it has been done before.
Okay, but here's the problem with that. I think in theory your idea is good because when you talked about the United States going into Japan and all of the infrastructure that was created and all of the manufacturing might, and one of the reasons why they're one of the biggest producers of micro technology and stuff like that, semiconductors, is in part because of the relationship they established with the United States. Okay, now the problem is that when the United States went into Japan, the whole industrial revolution was at a completely different place. And so now the United States doesn't have the same type of need for Venezuela outside of oil and gas. And so, and rare earth minerals. And so it doesn't have any economic incentive. And the only way that something like that would work is if there were large stores of lithium or other rare earth minerals that was able to contribute to the proliferation of technology to give the United States a better stance. And in so doing, being able to recreate that much cheaper there. I don't see that. Now, if something like that becomes available or if the context changes, then I'm all for the idea of working diplomatically with Venezuela because we have common interests. We want to make sure that the United States shores are protected. Venezuela is at the tip top of South America. So there's a lot of opportunity there. I think what's going to happen is the United States is going to continue to work with Venezuela for the oil. Because here's the thing. The U.S. refineries were actually made to process crude oil. And then when all of the shale oil was found through fracking, there was a different kind of crude that was discovered. And our refineries aren't really effectively working with that type of crude oil. So a mixture, so for example, when the president talks about the fact that Venezuelan oil is bad, and he makes it seem like, oh, well, we went in for different reasons, despite the fact that they have crappy oil. We actually need that crappy oil, because when it mixes with the oil that's refined here, it creates from a coarse grade and the fine grade that the United States has to the medium grade of crude oil that our refineries are actually used to working with. So we really do have a need for that type of oil. But I agree with you that there are so many reasons why working with Venezuela the correct way would be a benefit to them in the end. But I still say that we are on a very slippery slope, because here's the problem. And we can move on, or however you want to move forward. Here's the problem.
Oh, yeah.
If the Venezuelan military is behind the current regime that's in office right now, even if it's through fear, if the current military is behind Rodriguez and the current regime, guerrilla warfare is one thing that we have to worry about. Because think about this, and I'll wrap up my point. Ever since World War II, how many wars has the United States won? 0. We didn't win Vietnam. We didn't win Korea. We didn't win Iraq. We didn't win Afghanistan. We haven't won any of those wars. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that their militaries are superior than ours. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that given the context of each of those places that I've named after World War II, the people who were embedded within those communities believed very much in the war they were fighting, and they had a lot longer, and they had a lot more to lose, and they had a lot more to live for. So they kept fighting and coming after the military, and they weren't going to quit. So by that token, the United States in each one of those situations say, you know what? It's not worth it. We're giving away too much money. Too many American lives are dying, and America's appetite for losing their young men and women in these wars that are not connected to America. We got tired of it and said, you know what? Politically, it's not prudent. Economically, it's not prudent. And because of that, we have not ever won a war since then. And so we very, very much run the risk of this being exactly the same thing if the current military decides we're going to fight. We're not going to bow down to these imperialists, and we're going to continue to fight until the bitter end. It could end up very ugly and very expensive for the United States. And they could go in and sabotage all of those oil refineries that exist right now. And Venezuela has a ton of it. So there's a lot that we can lose. I hope you're right.
I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you in that is a risk. That is a very measurable risk that we do run the risk of, oh, damn it, and getting quagmired down in there. 100%. I agree with you. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And the reason why is I just don't think that when the USSR or Soviet Union fell, that power vacuum, all of those different things, this is a country ran by a socialist, communist dictator, narco dictator. Anytime someone like that comes out of power, things change. And people don't want to be in that. So it would be interesting, yes, Len, to get the perspective. And I know there's probably you're always going to have people that are going to be loyal or disagree. But I would probably say 80 to 90% of the Venezuelan people that live in Venezuela, and again, I could be out of my ass on this, are probably very happy. Just because socialism and communism is horrible. People think it's nice and they fall in love with the romanticism, just like people fall into the romanticism of entrepreneurship. And we used to say this all the time, Len. People are so in love about being an entrepreneur because they love the theory of an entrepreneur and what comes with an entrepreneur: autonomy, agency, freedom, unlimited income, dreams, no boss, all that love. Until you actually have to go in and go, dang, wait a minute, I got to deal with being rejected every day, maybe running out of money every day, being on the balls of my you-know-what for a certain amount of time, risk, no paycheck, no guarantee, people saying I'm a scam, all the things that go with it. Long hours. Wait a minute, I got to work 18 hours a day and I don't have benefits and no company car anymore and no health and all the things that come with it, becoming an entrepreneur. Then all of a sudden people go, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur, right? It's the same thing with socialism and in communism. Oh my God, free this, free that, all the lovely things. And she actually happens, then it happens. So I think,
and the people there, they already know what's on the other side of it because they experienced it firsthand.
They're starving.
They know that what was going on wasn't working because their moms and their grandmas and grandpas and dads lived that life. So I think it's easy for them to see that.
I think there's enough history there. Now, it is going to take some time to rule them out. And I think that's the delicate process that's happening behind the scenes right now. And I think that, look, I don't think Trump's stupid. I know he says a lot of asinine things, but I think he does have a lot of intelligent people in his cabinet and a lot of other people that are still there running the government with him.
They don't have a plan.
I think they do. And I think they look at this very long and hard. Here's the reason why I say they have a plan. Here's exactly why I say they have a plan. There's no way you execute a military operation like that, flawless like that, and not have a plan. Okay. Because the fact that you can. It
happened in Afghanistan. They went and took Saddam Hussein like that, bro. What are you talking about?
Right.
That's exactly what happened.
But hold on a second. That's a different era and a different world. Yes, we did. We went in there forcibly. Wait. When we took down Operation Desert Storm, when we went in and we took down Saddam Hussein, that was a very intrusive, very violent, boots on the ground type of approach.
Decisive and quick, though.
Right, exactly.
Shock and awe.
It was still all of those things. The difference here is that Trump looked at all of that, learned from all the mistakes, took a little bit of Bush, took a little bit of Biden, took a lot of bit of our boy Obama, because Obama is real good about stealth stuff and CIA and special. Look, if Obama was a football coach, he would be special teams coach. No doubt about it. Because the guy is great at using special teams in the military. Trump took all of that and went flawless victory, fatality. No one knew we were there. No one knew we went in. Lost zero assets, both physically and biologically. And no one died. And no bullets were fired from us anyways. At least that we know that killed anybody. Nothing. Boop, boop. In and out, and installed new leadership all within 24 hours. We didn't do that in Iraq. We went in and smashed and grabbed and carpetbagged in Iraq, and there was a power vacuum. And again, the tribes there in Iraq couldn't, the Sunnis and the Shiites and all these guys that have been tribal for thousands of years couldn't decide, and that created the mess. You don't have that type of tribal issue in Venezuela. They're Venezuelan. It's Latin culture. They're like this. There's no tribalness there. These guys are all they want to do is cartels and sunsets.
And you've got factions within that group. Because in the absence of power, might is always going to win over.
And that's exactly why Trump left the existing military leadership there, because it gives them a chance to say, okay, guys, like Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State said, F around and find out. Okay. And that's exactly the power, because here's the thing. Had Trump not done anything, we would still be in UN meetings like we were in 2024. We got to get this guy out. Let's put a bounty on his head and put this silly wanted poster up to everybody. Maduro probably used that as toilet paper. He probably had his subordinates print out that wanted poster that Biden made and the UN made. He probably printed it out billions of times with the Venezuelan oil money and used it for toilet paper. It's exactly what he probably did with that because it's comical.
But he took it. But President Trump upped it from 25 to 50 million, right? You do know that,
of course.
Right?
Oh, I do.
So he followed the same
game,
tactic.
Though.
But okay, I'll give you that. So if he used the $50 million as a tactic to divert our attention away from what was really going on, I think that's a plausible theory. Completely understand that. I think what remains to be seen is in the absence of real power, because the person that's left there, Delcy Rodriguez, she was very outspoken against the United States for what happened. And she's the person that's in power right now.
Of course she is going to be, though. She has to to show face. Because here's the thing, Len.
No, that doesn't make sense, though, because this is okay, hold on. This is what would make the most sense. If your theory was right, this is what would make the most sense. She gets on national TV and says, listen, okay, I understand the optics of this. I was around during Hugo Chavez. I was around during Maduro. But considering the fact that they're all out, I have seen the rise and fall of inflation happen in this great nation. I was here when we were the breadbasket of South America. I was here when per capita income was at the highest in South America. And I saw that the other way didn't work. And I've been really wanting an opportunity to see how I can make this nation rise. And this is what I want to do. I want us as a nation to turn the corner. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to be the person that's interim in office right now until we have a fair election process. And we want people from the outside so we can regain your trust to help monitor and to show that this process was fair and that there is accountability and that everything was transparent. And if she were to openly say that, because her saving face is not calling out the United States for what they did. Because if their people were really in favor of United States coming in and kidnapping their leader, then if they were really in favor of that, then her staying in alignment with him is a problem. Now, the only way that I could align with your theory that she's saving face is if there is internally the military faction of their leadership that's really aligned with Maduro. Yeah. And if she says that, she's putting a death bounty on her own head. That's the only way. But she's got to know what's really going on, because here's the thing. You understand, just like when you ran an office, when people said crappy things about you, some way, somehow it found its way back to you, right? Because
it always does. It always
that
does.
Are loyal. Exactly. So Rodriguez, being the second in charge in Venezuela, she knows what's going on. She knows if the military is aligned with Maduro or secretly there's other factions that say, hey, look, we want a democracy. We don't like the fact that meat cost, 1,000 times more 2 months from, 2 months later than it did before because of the hyperinflation. She knows what's going on. So she either misstepped and didn't take the time to align with Maduro, or there's some people that have military power that are in alignment with him. And if what I'm saying is true, the second part that I just said, the United States is not just going to walk in and just, have everything happen and everything's going to say kumbaya and everything's going to be good. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be messy. I think it's going to get ugly and it's going to be nasty. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. I hope Trump can ride out of office and everybody says, you know what? Great call. We misspoke and we misunderstood. You're playing chess and we're playing checkers. Mr. President, hats off to you. I don't think that's going to happen. I hope that it does.
Well, he has a track record of doing that and he's never lost it. So I hope as well, because he's always gotten away and always came out on top with everything. I thought for sure his goose was cooked.
No,
and he wasn't getting. I thought for sure his goose was cooked and he wasn't going to get reelected in 2024. And if he hadn't gotten reelected, he would have been toast. I thought he was staring down the barrel of a gun, and all of a
34 indictment, 34 counts,
which we all know at this point was all attack pieces. But that's besides the point, right? That's a different topic. I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We will see. It's going to be interesting.
I do know this. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be difficult? Yes. Do I think it was a great thing? Yes, because now there's at least an opportunity for change, whereas before there wasn't. And let's be honest, no one was going to get him out of office because everyone is spineless except for Putin and Xi Jinping and Trump. All the other world leaders of all those other countries, no spines at all.
No, so bro, it's not about spine, bro. It's about what kind of military power you have. It's not a coincidence that the three most powerful militaries that you just mentioned.
Hold on. Let me throw one more in there. I'm not a fan, but Bibi's got a spine too. Say what you want to say about Netanyahu. Guy's got a spine. Guy's got a spine, Len. Come on, dude. That guy.
But he's a war criminal, man. You can't even.
So is Putin. And so is Xi Jinping.
I'm talking wide-range genocide, bro.
Right, but Xi Jinping's committing suicide or genocide against the Uruguays or whatever it's called in that whole province in North China right now. He's killing hundreds of. You talk about regime change and talk about cultural. What is it called? Washing or whatever the heck it's called when you that's happening in China. So yeah, they're all accused of it, but guess who's not accused of any of it and has never had a record of it? Trump. Trump does.
Except for he's been, there's been conversations and overwhelming mounting evidence. He's been seen with some young girls.
So is Clinton. So is
100%.
All of those.
100%.
That picture
doesn't make it right on any of those.
That picture was debunked. That was a pageant that all those girls were at that he was taking a picture with. Those were all pageant. That was a pageant picture.
I'm just bringing up a point, Chris.
I know. The CNN talking point of, oh my God, look at Trump with all these young girls. It was a pageant
I just
picture.
Think we need to get to the bottom of it. It's all good, man. I'm glad that we can have conversations like this. And it's also good that we could vehemently disagree and very, be very spirited in our perspective and still remain friends. And I hope that people out there will learn from what's being displayed on this platform. That's the reason why we do this. We do this so we can have honest conversations. And so we hope that you will like, comment, subscribe, and then find other people in which you disagree with and exercise the process of having conversations with somebody in which you disagree and learn how to do it in a respectful manner. So with that being said, Chris, man, until next time, it's always good talking to you, brother. And we'll talk soon.
Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great one.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.